You guys listening now on YouTube, you missed a stellar conversation about William Shatner and Dunkin' Donuts. Um, and for once, I'm glad that the Facebook page is now deleting all our live streams within 3 months. Welcome to Stone Soup Poetry. Tonight it comes one of the most recommended poets to feature. John Wesick first chimed in saying you have to get this person to feature. Many other people followed suit, both in and out of the stream. And I got to see his work recently live during a feature with during a feature starring during an open mics featuring Tim Gager, where he served as the host down up in Ipswich. He's one of our newest North Shore invaders. I'm so glad to have him. Lee Eric Freedman is here. Applause, smattering of applause, um, cries of joy, insert or emoji, however you like. We have the feature. We have the feature going on after the open mic. Thank you guys for coming. For those of you who want to participate and have never been here before, please let me know. People like Joan and Ethan who have come here to listen have let me know. People who have been here before, like Linda and Mark, I'm going to assume that they want to read, and I'm adding them. Mary Jennings, I know, doesn't want to read. I'm assuming smattering of you will also want to read. Who are here for the first time or the first time in a while. Hi, Bob. Good to see you again. And Mark, good to see you as well. Mary, Insectarium. I know thee well. Okay, I don't know who that is, but please text me and I will introduce you if you're interested. Ron, good to see you again. Remnant 5000 has selected Rita Rose to start. And coincidentally, I do love starting with her. Wow, it's like the machines and AI are actually working for once. Let's welcome up Rita Rusty Rose to the open mic.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And for everyone that's listening, I'm going to be doing two poems I'm working on. The first one is called an abecedarian, and that means that every first letter coincides with the alphabet. So this is knapweed. A flower sat on the sill, blooming happily with color and hope, dancing endlessly from dusk until dawn, going strong, having a good time in her window space. Jane, the purple, delightful knapweed, lovely yet invasive, many would pluck from their garden, not welcomed anywhere, overtaking native flowers, panicled and pretty, quite a beautiful sight, resilient in all terrain, spotted knapweed thriving about Long Island, upside down bracts, V-shaped stems with pale purple petals, X Gersalories, centaurea, young flower, unwanted one, sippy plant, glad you settled on my sill. And another one I'm working on is a haiku, and I'll read it twice. Mount Trumpmore, multitudes gave voice, and the walls came tumbling down. Base of Mount Trumpmore. Multitudes gave voice, and the walls came tumbling down. Base of Mount Trumpmore. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. It's been a good month for haiku. Check out some of our fellow poets on this call for some of their haiku selections, or check out Stone Soup, or check out Jackie Chow. She recently won a prize for one of her haikus, and she's been doing a lot and featuring a lot of her work, getting a lot of her work featured. So check her out. I thought she was going to be on the call tonight, but I guess she's going to rest on her laurels for 1 week and then come back swinging next week. Let's welcome up next, Bob Reeves. Good to have you here.
Hello. I'm going to read you a poem called The Opal Miners. It had to be Johnny. Johnny was always the one whose pursed breaths got us glowing with visions we nearly believed in, who found it, ad or story, in one of those lonely mail mags, Argosy or whatnot, where men in wild places strode and achieved without women. Absence of women so loud it made a spring of life in the men, a roaring source they discovered with backs and hands. The article said the Australian government would pay good money to people willing to dig for opals in the outback, would support them on homesteads miles thick with claims, inevitably founts of the lavish tinted stones, perfect riches rolled and clicked in the palm. Who or what the market was for opals in such profusion wasn't part of the story, or why Australia hadn't been clogged long since with lazy billionaires practically scooping the slenderly shining things out of an inch of dust. I nearly believed it. It came from Johnny. Enough that the move to Australia waited semi solid at high school graduation with its sun that leathered skin and bounding beasts and poisonous hills. The car, oh yeah, a Land Rover, we'd buy with the initial lure money and drive to the fertilities of the opals. It was a choice of futures as sane as any touted to us on career day, and a group destiny. Paul, Johnny, and I together as men, the way we were together as boys, talking over the latest Twilight Zone or Man from Uncle. This year, now that the APA has ruled traditional masculinity to be a form of mental illness, I thought about Paul, Johnny, and me, the opal miners. 50 years since we've all three seen each other, and all our lives knotted like ropes around females, thick on the ground as the opals in our vision, or scanty as actual opals probably are, but round as birth, round as childhood dead and gone, glossy with a shine just beneath the skin, and the palest colors of the outback scrub and sky. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Up next, looking forward to her book coming out next year, I believe. Let's welcome up our resident golden shoveler, Marianne Honecker.
And don't have a golden shovel tonight. I have a new one. It's called Home. Let's get up and go home. I'm not sure where it is, but let's start walking. I can smell it in the air. Sometimes night swaddles me in her soft blanket and I feel like I'm there. The moon never shuts her eye. A moat rides a single shaft of sun. A dog pours his voice in the air as if into a bucket where it reverberates, his home. A leaf bends the light. An odor fills up everything. A bird's eye is as bright as a tear, but it's crying home. I talk to home in my house. I stand in my hallway and say, Home, where are you? A ladybug settles her 6 feet lightly on a daisy petal, folds her wings into her chrome carapace, and is home. Tell me in the secret language of the clouds where it is. In my mind, I see a field bright with summer and wildflowers. So, thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you very much. Was just letting someone else in. We're starting to pack in. If you do want to read and I skip you or I don't DM you, let me know. I'm trying to keep everyone in mind. Let's go now to Jan Rowe, the Black Seed Writers Group.
Thank you. I couldn't resist this. It's why am I smiling? My great-grandfather's nephew, he gave me 6 or 7 generations back to Oswald Stewart in the mid 1600s on Northumberland. All I found was my great grandmother doing field work on the Scottish side of the Tweed. So that's where she was on the 1851 census in Scotland. Why am I smiling? I usually don't smile at vandalism. However, Trump's golf course, all those white buildings with the red paint, Free Palestine, and that primo hole with the North Sea in the background, but it's all full of it. Looks like giant mole holes. Won't be any teeing off there. Why am I smiling? Thank you.
Yeah.
That's not nice.
Don't anyone try that was just say that was rhetorical. I don't want anyone trying to answer, given these days. Could cause an existential crisis amongst all of us. Thank you so much, Jan. And up next, I would like to welcome Mr. John Wezick and take time to thank him for being an emergency fill-in host for last week when I had to do a quick run for help to help
Th-
someone. So take it away,
Thank you,
John.
Ted. This is T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, called The Burial of the Dead. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the Starnbergesa. With a shower of rain, we stopped in the colonnade and went in on sunlight into the off garden and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bin gar keiner Russin, stamm aus Litauen, echt Deutsch. And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousin's, he took me out on a sled, and I was frightened. And he said, Marie, Marie, hold on tight. And down we went in the mountains. There, you feel free. I read much of the night and go south in the winter. What are the roots, that church? What branches grow out of this stony rush? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is shadow under the red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either you shadow at morning striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear and a handful of dust. That was The Wasteland, as read by William Shatner.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Up next. Up next, just Remdinator must be doing word association because upon hearing Wasteland, he chose to select next for the open mic, a poet from Idaho. Let's welcome next Mr. Bill Lewis.
Ah, it's such a pleasure to come and visit you in your wasteland. What sad, miserable lives you have back there. I remember once when I lived there, it was still verdant, it was still warm. People appreciated each other. And since I've left, I've heard nothing but horrendous tales of misery and woe, abuse and horror. Alas! So Sunday, my friend is having a birthday party for her aunt, and a bunch invites a bunch of friends and family over, and there's like 20 of us there. And we don't really know each other, and we're kind of talking. And she made enchiladas, and the 10-year-old decides that uh, bouncing one of the balloons at me with a good idea. And of course, I had to defend myself. And so, anyway, so we were bouncing the balloons back and forth all the time. And sometimes we had other people, and they didn't really mind too much. But anyway, we were having a great time and bouncing balloons until one of them popped. And oh, well, these things happen. And then we go to the movies. So the whole point was to celebrate her birthday and go to the movies to see John Wayne in The Quiet Man. The American prize fighter goes back to his home in Ireland, and not all the Irish are happy to have a Yank back here. And he doesn't really understand how um, pride, what's the word I want? Honor is. Of course, he doesn't understand that in Ireland, the only honorable thing to do is to get up and fisticuffs until you have. So anyway, this is a wonderful movie, and John Wayne is just, John Wayne is such a wonderful film. And we set a row for us, and I'm sitting at the almost the last seat, because the last seat there, the woman has got her cane on it, so there's nobody sitting there. And the 10-year-old comes down, of course, and sits next to me. And for the entire movie, she's keeping up a small conversation. Why is he doing that? Well, that's so silly. Can I have some more popcorn? How long, much longer is it? I want some more popcorn. No, no, give me my drink. And this is going on for the entire film. And, and she's being very quiet. So I never once say shush or anything. And I just whisper a little bit and going like, okay, it's a fight scene. Wait for the fight scene. This is John Wayne. This is Ireland. There has to be a fight scene. And so she managed to stay awake, or mostly awake, and then saw the great fight scene, and they have a great time, and they beat the out of each other. And once they finished beating each other up, then arm in arm, they go back home together and celebrate each other. Now they've beaten yeah. So, that's John Wayne. But just having the little girl just, no, I was the one. I was clearly the one that knew everything. Oh, my goodness gracious. And what a wonderful week it has been. I hope that you also have had wonderful weeks. I gave a speech today at the Rotary Club of Sandpoint on artificial intelligence. And I was sort of thinking, oh no, I am so old, I'm decrepit, I don't know the details of my, but oh no, they were happy, and I gave a good little talk, and they were just really impressed and really happy. And I really only told them what they already knew, which was it's a whole bunch of numbers, and we're beating them up with hammers. And if you beat numbers up with hammers enough, you get things that look like sentences. And if it turns out sentences that are useful to you, cool. But don't trust it. If you are not the expert, don't trust it to be the expert, because every now and then it will you, because it's just a bunch of numbers. Anyway, so that's what I got to do this week. And of course, I'm teaching my high school class. I love my high school students, and my chickens are still chickening. And yeah, life is beautiful. I was going to read a poem, but this felt okay, poetic enough. So there it is. And you get a spot of my life. Happy today.
What could be more poetic than picturing John Wayne in your head going, "Well, Aaron, go bra, my good lady." Like it's in the spirit of the Irish, of course. I think him and the Conqueror might be more credible. But anyway, let's go now to the next person on the open mic selected. I think we have next, yes, Mr. Mark States.
Between frogs. Between frogs in the nearby creek, ribbit away the evening, and occasional swoosh of car traffic on major road nearby, it is still possible to focus on gaps in external sounds and begin to let mind wander where it wishes. The back patio of a former apartment, humid and 90 degrees. A breeze that brought only a rumor of relief. An old memory of a temporary boss and a table in their office cafeteria. A bed and a book in a broiling room in summer. In real life, the toddler upstairs whines. Its facial contortions are conjectured. More randomness follows, interrupted by airplane engines whooshing with real people and real places they've got to go. Oblivious to the mind wanderers living down below, whose contemplations are bounced around like a ball in a pinball machine, getting paddled by circumstances beyond their comprehension, while buzzers and ding-dings light up a towering scoreboard. A Red Bull-breathed kid in a t-shirt proclaiming some band everyone else will forget the name of in 10 years is God, jerking his arms around and cussing incessantly, and just as suddenly, eyes perceive the outside world again. The curtains have come down in this existential theater of the mind. You can now hear crickets applaud. Oh, and also frogs. Thousands and thousands of frogs ribbiting throughout the evening.
Thank you so much, Mark. Up next, I'd like to, surrounding air chosen this time. I'd like to welcome up Linda Wolotica, if she is so willing to read. I just pressed, oh, there you go.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, okay. Just get into the document. Okay. Since this is an ongoing situation, I don't think it is passe. Virtue. We are on a peace mission, Nadia and I. We traveled camelback through Egypt, discussing bonding with natives. I like that she and I are paired up. Her resume and mine seemingly mesh, yet differ in ways that I shall learn. I ask Nadia, do you possess virtue? She answers, there is a masterpiece called Virtue that hangs in the Friar's collection. It claims to define chaos within its shards of glass. Fragments of emotional strife hang heavy on me. Every word spoken between us feels intentional. We act on what is essential, journey toward a safer region. Cobblestone, sand, sun burns ruby red, burns away despair. She carries herself as if in a pose, splays her limbs aside her body like a vine out of control, twined and wrapped around objects, often people she never met until now. I want to cast a spell over her. Nadia and I see everything and nothing. We talk about our fears, limitations, never admit to the worst. The heat of our day's journeying finds us agreeing to shower together. In our haste to cool off, we see each other nude for the first time. We embrace. This gesture is benign, yet in my brain, hopeful. We help one another cleanse away dust and dirt of life. I repeat my query. Do you possess virtue? She says she has and will again. We lie in the sparse shade of an olive tree. We dress into clean garments. I feel immersed in her presence like an addict to a fix. We walk further toward our destination. Speaking no words, she hums melodies I remember hearing as a child. Dusk is approaching. We seek shelter again in the dilapidated stucco chapel. We feel reverent. A bronze cross is hung above a wooden table. We unroll our sleeping mats, take comfort here. In the morning, a crude outdoor shower sprays water over us. We set off, continue on as sandstorms surround us. Helicopters hover, signal to us, prepare to land. We board and are asked about our mission. The Egyptian government will come for the camels. It has been over a year since Hamas attacked Israel. Israel, Palestine, Iran, Lebanon, Jordan are all steep deep in this ever evolving conflict. We are flown to an embassy. Here I ask Naja once again, do you possess virtue? Her answer is, if given a gun, I will shoot to protect myself. We find that we cannot remain together. The ambassadors say it's for safety purposes. The defeat inside me is real. I am drafted as a soldier on the opposing side of Nadia's homeland. Nadia is flown to a safer haven. Without her, evil becomes my companion. I am forced to fight or die. I have become chaos. Virtue has escaped me. Thank you.
Wonderful, Linda. Thank you for coming. Thank you for returning. Good to have you back. Coming up next, I would like to welcome up past Stone Soup feature themselves, Nike Truth.
Good evening. This poem is called 3:33 a.m. in my interpretation of William Shatner. It's 3:29 a.m. Christmas lights in a crisp air. From the west jar my birdcage. She contorts her muscles, clenching the vessel. Rattled nerves throb under the gaze of the dead lights, emitting black rays that dried and chopped the retina into a kaleidoscope of delusion. And the cage wheezes, the collision, an inferior crying for help, dry mouth. It's like tape scraping on the roof of your mouth. A single corner rolled over and flapping and annoying your core. Or is it merely ugly and shame and anger at that innate desire to touch the other side of the line? Thank you.
Now John's going to be disappointed if you don't recite all your poems like that from now on. See, John's already cracking in the comments and in the chat. Jesus God. Okay. Okay, we're all losing it. That's fine. Ron Bremner, come on up to our virtual podium.
Hey, everybody. This one is currently out on a online journal called Frazzled Lit. It's called Serenity Teaches. Serenity teaches beauty in a wall of Buddhist sleep. Many go straight to the knowing of why. Fearless sisters of wisdom free the heroes and villains from their magnificent excitement. Strange experiences within are alive and well on earth, despite the second-hand struggles to escape. Wise women and men temporarily defeat their racist past, only to assure a murdered future. Dogs are unique, but not psychic, no matter how much they seem to be, and no matter how much we want them to be. Cambodian street life, Nepali imaginations, Skid Row clerics, these all give detailed instructions on how to get one's prayers answered. It's been assumed by those more intelligent than I that dying is a trip to divine beaches in Hawaii. But that does not cure the anger that hangs in the air, where we breathe it in and find that we can only hope to be as entertaining or valuable or unusual as a bee's backside. Thank you and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Ron. Up next, there are a lot of visual artists. There are a lot of people from Delaware. Today, we combine the two and present Robert Fleming, a visual artist from Delaware.
Thank you, Chad. Would I be able to share the screen? No problem. Thank you. So just like last year, I will be creating the banners for Oddball Magazine Horror-thon in November and Christmas Wars in December. And I wanted to give a little bit of a preview and see what people liked between the different options. The key thing to ask yourself is, when you would see the image, would you be inspired to participate and to create a writing piece and submit it to the Horror-thon Festival in November? This was the original image I started with, which is sort of like a canal at the back of my community. It's called Love Creek Canal. And I was able to edit the photograph into this image. I was thrilled that the water in the canal ended up looking like blood because it is a horror-thon theme. The second option is I added my pumpkin monsters to the image. So the first thing I'm looking for is for people either to put in the chat or to open their mic and shout out whether they prefer the image on the left without the pumpkin monsters or the one on the right with the pumpkin monsters.
On the right with the pumpkin monsters. Yay, pumpkin monsters!
I like the pumpkins also.
And we had some woolly mammoths with that.
You know, the pumpkins might be cute and certainly thematic, Robert. I think the left one has it completely beat all to hell. It's very, it states its mission without going overboard, and I would absolutely submit to something that has the left-hand side image versus the right.
I like the left also.
Me too. I think the left is fantastic.
I also like the left because you have the title and it leaves something to the imagination.
Okay, thank you. Let me go on. There's another
You
option.
should go overboard. Go overboard.
So the next option is inspired by the movie The Birds, which was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. And I think it debuted in the 1960s. This is one of the key scenes where The heroine is protecting the children with the birds flying above her. And then this is the birds on the at the park where the children play. And this is the one which mine is inspired by. So this is the first one where the eagles are on a blue and red merry-go-round. And the next one, this is the same image in black and white. The next image is just a change in the merry-go-round. So really what I'm going to be asking for, this is which merry-go-round do you find more inspiring, the one on the left or the one on the right?
On my left.
Left.
But James says right.
The right is more horrible.
He was injured falling off one. I think the one on the left looks like more fun.
The one on the right looks like it's more overpopulated with them. So, the
Yeah.
more there are, the scarier it is.
That's true.
Okay.
I would go with the right, especially since, if the theme is horror, there appears to be two of those birds in the top center that look like they're conjoined at the eye, which is definitely a nod to body horror. So I would lean to the image on the right with the circular base and the yellow structures there.
Okay.
I agree with Rich. I like that also, and it's a more modern day kind of whirly bird than the other, the red one, whatever.
So now I'm just going to compare the two. Which one do you prefer? The one on the left, which is just the canal, or the one with the birds?
The one on the left that's just the canal, not the bird one. The one on the left with the canal and without the pumpkins. That is,
Yeah.
it's frankly it verges on being really stately, and I really like that.
I
think
agree. I agree,
The
Rich.
left.
I like
I
that.
The
agree.
left. The left.
The other one's a little more cartoony. I like the one on the left.
Well, thank you. Thank you for helping me make my selections for Horathon. And I will bring back the selections for Christmas Wars for another open mic. Thank you and greetings from Delaware. Just two quick announcements. The submissions for Instant Noodles are closed, and tomorrow Friday I'm meeting with one of the editors to make the selections for the visual part of the magazine. And I am also being a guest editor for a literary magazine now called Malawi Literature. And I'm hoping to have my editor statement by the end of this month. Thank you.
Nice. Congratulations, too. I'd like to see if moving along and trying to get that image of the Eagles fighting over an eye out of my head. Let's bring up next Lori Rosen. Would you like to read?
Okay. I hadn't really planned on it, but I can. All right, I will read this one that I have next to me. River Raft Macabre, after Times Union, October 2011. During the flood, coffins rise from graves, float down Main Street. Free from dirt and rocks, they dart among bloated cows and sheep, brace and roll like rafts in rapids. 6 inches of rain falls in 12 hours. Homes, barns, cornfields wash away. Houses without bottom floors hang over rushing water. Bridges collapse and sink. Large chunks of road crumble or go missing. This town now an island. After the river recedes, news reports recall bodies found strewn in open air, caskets poking out of debris piles. Their hinges glint in the post-storm sun. 100-year flood turns 8-year flood. Downpours and surges strike annually. Each summer, a different town or the same, a different valley or the same valley. If I didn't know better, I'd swear covenants were broken, the promise of a rainbow erased.
And you said you weren't planning to read. Thank you, Laura. Like that a lot. Okay, I've been putting this one off. Would the being known as Insectarium like to read tonight?
Probably not. He's a musician.
Oh, okay. Well, would you like to play?
I don't
I'm going to
know.
take that as a no or ask him, maybe ask again later. I'll go with my Magic 8 Ball solution.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's find out if, well, before I do, let's bring up someone I know is going to want to read. He just celebrated the launch of his poetry anthology, the Vagabond Lunar Codex, into space and specifically the moon. I'll send a link to the video that was shared recently, back in February, regarding the launch and its landing. Um, I'm proud to be one of those people whose work is on the moon now as a timed capsule, and kudos to this person for making this happen. Let's welcome up Mark Lipman.
Hey, thanks, Chad. It's so good to be here with so many great poets. I'm actually really looking forward to Lee Eric's reading this evening. So, uh, thanks for having this. Just one, it's funny because I like to share new stuff as much as I can. And I was digging in my pocket the other day and found a piece of paper with a poem on it that I wrote like 2 years ago. Um, and I was like, wow, this is a good poem. I should share this. So I put it out online and people seem to like it. So I'm going to share that with you tonight. This is called Sitting on a Wooden Bridge. Sorry, Sitting on a Wooden Bench. Sitting on a wooden bench, a longer dirt path, next to a stone-mason, clay-roofed house, surrounded by trees and green fields and rolling hillsides, with nothing but the chirping of birds, the occasional bark of a dog, the cackling of a rooster, and the gust of wind to feather my hair. Yes, it's still possible to find peace in this world, if you look for it, if that's what you really want to find, in your heart, in your mind. It's not so difficult as they make it to be, to drop all the anger, hate, and jealousy against those in faraway lands you've never met, who've never done you a bit of harm, who only want the same chance of life as you, who, like you, are only ever screwed by the politicians, where it's always the rich oppressing the poor and those stuck in the middle blaming the victims in their own self-righteousness, pretending to fool themselves that one more missile sale will bring world peace, as their own communities fall to pieces from underfunding and lack of care, while somewhere out there, your tax dollars are dropping shrapnel on children, destroying the lives you feign to protect, so that you can feel better about the blood on your hands, pointing fingers and waving flags, caring more about pronouns and what's in the mirror than you ever did about the conditions of poverty that keep us all oppressed. Yes, it's not so hard to find a better way, if only we have the courage to open our eyes and see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And the name of that collection, which you can see behind him, is the Vagabond Lunar Collection. I think it had there were a couple of versions of the name floating around before it shot up into space. And the print edition is available from him. I believe it's $50 for the whole thing. It's a huge, big freaking book of poetry, and I am
Yeah, I've got like two copies of that left, and I'm
oh
holding those for poets. It's a special collector's edition. I'm not putting it out for the general public. If you really truly
oh
must have it, you better let me know quick. I'll get it to you. But yeah, so psyched to have poetry on the moon. 129 of us are up there now, and the wonderful thing about this launch is that the lander actually. The moon lander landed on its side at the bottom of a crater. And so it can't get any sun to recharge the solar panels. So um, all of the tests they were going to do, all the little things NASA was going to do with it, they really can't do. So the only successful part of the mission was that we actually landed our poetry on the moon. That was the one thing that went down flawlessly. We are there. We're part of the data center when humans go back to the moon and they build a base. That's going to be there. But they sent the entire rocket up at millions and millions of dollars just to get our poetry to the moon because that's the only thing that wound up a success for that mission. But we're there, and I'm so thrilled about that. And so, thanks. I'll pass the mic. I know we have a big night coming up. Thanks, guys.
thank you, Mark. Up next, I'd like to bring up Mr. Rich Boucher.
Hey, appreciate that. Thank you. And hello to everybody. I hope you're having a good night. You can hear me all right, correct? Okay, good. All right. All right. So this is a work of prose poetry, and it's called Moments Later. The voice you heard speaking died too. Allegory season is brutal this year. When I got to the house, the woman told me that the rat had somehow got into the oven in her kitchen and that she was frightened to even open the door. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I wasn't really awake and that I was actually dreaming this. I couldn't escape the odd sensation that I had, that it felt the whole time like God was thinking about me right then and there, that God was wondering if it was time for me to stop living. The rat looked out at me from inside the oven like I was just something it was imagining. Then he was looking at me like I was wondrous. He was one of the cutest rats I'd ever seen. Plump, like bread rising in the middle with lush brown and gray fur. Eyes darker than the tunnel that takes you through the mountain at night. The rat stared at me from the Pyrex casserole dish he was sitting in there in the oven. Opening the oven with one hand, I poured the poison syrup into the dish that the rat was in, and he began to lap it up. I've never tasted the poison, which isn't harmful to humans. But my employers at the pest control company told me that rats and other pests find the golden syrup delicious, even as with every lick and slurp it works quick to stop their hearts. The rat purred in appreciation as it licked away. How hungry for affection this rat must have been. My touch, surely, the only caring and compassion it had ever known in its small, strange life. I reached with my other hand to pet it behind its little pink ear and give it some scritches as it licked the remainder of the poison syrup from my spoon. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I wasn't really awake and that I was actually dreaming this. I couldn't escape the odd sensation that I had, that it felt the whole time like God was thinking about me right then and there, that God was wondering if it was time for me to stop living. The poison works faster than you think. I heard the rat gasp out loud, and it sounded like a human child feeling some terror, like a human child sitting up abruptly in bed, woken from a nightmare. The rat's face seemed a little human right then, and his mouth was in the shape you'd make when you're about to start crying. How could you do this to me? Pleaded his eyes before the light of life left them. The sweet and cute rat was staring right at me as he died, and after a moment I knew he was not looking at me anymore, but instead was looking directly at his creator, his God, who was looking back at him and welcoming him into the next life, where maybe there would be some love for him to feel. Thanks.
For the first time in forever, Rich, you reminded me of the late Kevin Mahoney, who was a Cantab regular and had a tendency to write about rats as well.
Well,
I'll
thank
have
you
to show
very
you.
much. We have to talk about that for sure, Chad. I, I didn't, what can you say? Comes from a bad dream I had, actually.
Right. But famously began one of his poetry readings at the Cantab by singing Ben from Michael Jackson. So it was yeah, he was more dark absurdist, but never forgot his rendition. Up next, where do we go from there? Um, let's see. I think I'm missing someone, or she already, I think she may have left, which is, oh, Nancy Hewitt. I didn't know if she would be interested in reading, although now I don't see anyone in front of the camera, so she might have stepped out. Good Lord, my timing is for crap. My timing is crap for crap. Okay, Michael Benoit, if you are interested in reading, I'd love to have you, unless Lee's gonna tell me he's with the band. And I guess Matty Lewin doesn't want to read because he looks like an attorney.
Up to him. He's part of my tin box group, so if he wants to read, I won't tell him not to.
Well, Matty, do you want to have at it?
Honestly, I actually didn't have any of my poems with me, but I can.
Oh,
Oh, I actually do remember one poem that I wrote.
okay.
Let's see. Okay, now I remember. It's called Shores of Eve. I stood by to feel the sky as diamonds lit the sea. They twinkled, they shined with glowing divine, so delicate and free. The sun, alike a sleeping babe, shuts his eyes once more. The nightly shade, as daylight fades, blankets the evening shore. The tune of evening slumber falls as nature surely paves. A somber clash, a fluid crash, a grand fanfare in waves. For night has fallen on the land, catered with care and bliss, which sounds familiar to old men's ear, to the eyes a painted kiss. I alike the sleeping sun, and lie upon the sand, to watch the stars as they play a twilight marching band. Moonlit eyes look down on me, resting along the while, for she would know where the eve may go in this clouded starlit mile. And so I sleep within the sheep on the sands of evermore. Alas, the scheme, and just a dream I will adore. Thank you.
Most impressive debut. didn't know what to expect because you're dressed like the lawyer who's going to be calling the young lawyer who's going to be calling me to explain why I can't sue the HVAC people who said they couldn't clean the outside of my outside ducts because their ladder was too small. Anyway, that was very impressive, and I hope you come back. Now,
Oh,
Nancy
thank you.
Hewitt is back, and I would love to see if she would like to read. I can help you unmute if that.
Okay.
There you go.
I just came, I'm part of Lee's fan base, so I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
from Swampscott, so I didn't bring anything to read.
Swapscott in the house. Swapscott in the hizzo. Excellent. North Shore Invaders, assemble. This is great. We are at the end of the open mic, but for one more person, check out oddballmagazine.com. We are always looking for submissions, and we're especially looking for timely ones on current events, which we generally feature on Monday. Our typical standard submissions, we have to, you can be waiting up to 1 to 3 months for a response, but anything on a current event, submitted under timely submissions, unsubmittable, you have a much greater chance of getting featured sooner. And we really want to be representing the times. James Van Looy is an oddball contributor. You can check out his poetry column, It's All One Thing, which publishes without fail every Thursday morning at 11 o'clock. And now let's welcome up James.
Thanks, Chad. So I have a piece here. This is called San Sebastian, which was actually it's a figure too of Etienne de Creux, of the famous martyr Saint Sebastian. And there's actually a mime figure that goes with it, but I can't show you that right now because the screen is too small. There he is again, in full acting out mode. The art of the deal guy who keeps on trying to catch fragile eggs while he dons the big old-fashioned softball catcher's mitts. No one seems to know old age occasions a certain fragility as they play World War I ages, dog fighting for the whole world to see, butts all the way up the genocidal pole, and in full defensive. I can do whatever I want and want no matter what it is or what anyone thinks. Here we go. And once again, we hear the silver strains of the William Tell Overture whistling through the ruins and down the mountainside. They're bombing the Houthis one more time, like an ever-flowing stream. Bombs falling again on Gaza. Mass bombing can't even claim it's strategic. No, no, not now. Nightmare flash that blinds us all. The brighter the bombs burst, darker it gets until there we all are together one more time, offering our breasts to that arrow through which we dangle, through which we fly, over the world of pain and walls. And here's the song, the Dutch song that goes with this from Armand. Als alle grenzen open gaan van landen groot en klein. Als er geen muren meer bestaan, dan zal het vrede zijn. Als alle mensen samen gaan van landen groot en klein. Als mijn kander lucht verstaan, dan zal het vrede zijn. Nog gaat die klok het uur niet aan voor het allerlaatste strijd. Nog gaat die klok het uur niet aan, maar voor de hoogste tijd. Alle grenzen open gaan van landen groot en klein. Dat blanken woord elkaar verstaan, dan zal het vrede zijn. Er wordt al juwen lang gepraat, geen mens die weet hoe lang. De wereld wacht op en inderdaad, de mensheid wordt zo bang. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And with that, the open mic is concluded. And What an open mic it was. It's been the liveliest and the largest gathering since the years began. And little wonder as to why, as one of our most demanded poets for me to feature is going to be reading in a few moments. Um, Not too much in the way of announcements. I'm hoping to announce the first April poet soon, and hopefully the first feature poet of May, Stone Soup's anniversary month, a little bit after that. This is I do encourage you to submit to Oddball, which is kind of the right arm of Stone Soup as far as featuring poets that I discover here. Definitely submit if you can, and there'll be more submission opportunities I'll be posting from other publishers later on tomorrow afternoon. A number have come up. Some of you have brought them to my attention. Some of them I've stumbled upon, and try to get to them all. Um, Can't think of anything now, except I am going to try and do a push for Stone's Throw, the next issue, what I call the democracy benefit issue, a reaction to the recent election, and take your freaking pick of everything else that's going on. I'll put more details out on that hopefully very soon, hopefully by April as well. But tonight, more importantly, we have the feature of Lee Eric Freedman, and permit me while I get to his boilerplate. It's a pretty epic bio. You should all hear it. Swampscott is definitely represented. Lee Eric Freedman is the third poet laureate of Swampscott, Massachusetts, United States, from 2016 to 2018. Since 2011, he's been affectionately titled as the Renegade Poet Laureate of Swampscott, trademark, from 2011 to forever. When Lee isn't busy being any type of laureate, he leads the Tin Box Poets of Swampscott Workshop Group, co-hosts the online video podcast series In Other Words with his friend and Spellfest founder, James Bryant, and regularly performs at open mics and readings all over the place. He's been published in numerous poetry anthologies and journals, including publications from Netherlands, Ireland, India, South Africa, Bangladesh, and Scotland. In March of 2025, his poetry was published in the Vagabond Lunar Collection anthology from Vagabond Books. Name drop. That was included in the Lunar Codex project, and which landed on the moon aboard the Intuitive Machines NASA Nova C lunar lander Athena. Lee is the former host. It's like poetry, it rhymes. Everything comes back full circle. Lee is the former host of First Friday Open Mic at Reach Arts, Swampscott. His poetry has been translated into American Sign Language, and he's a three-time winner of the Naomi Trzaskowski Memorial Poetry Contest. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the boilerplate. You probably knew the boilerplate ahead of time if you know anything of this person's work. I ask you, put your hands together 40, 50 times for Lee Eric Freedman.
Thanks, Chad. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. I got 10. If that's too long, just tell me and I'll stop. Primordial.
Go, man, go.
Primordial.
10 is great.
Poetry. 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 In motion, in motion, in motion, like molecules, like DNA, like primordial oceans, like a red rubber ball, in motion, kicked by a rambunctious third grade boy on his school recess playground with a whoop, yowl, and howl. He whomps it into a long, high, flying drive into another time, another universe, another scrap of words on a white blank page that forms into particles of poetry, into molecules of poetry, into our DNA that settle onto a white blank page, settle upon my body, upon your body, upon their bodies. A tattoo of sacred verse sewn into the molecular lattice of our DNA. primordial oceans, a red rubber ball, a rambunctious third grade boy, his school recess playground, a white blank page, permanent. Thank you. So, when I'm not doing poetry, I'm an election official for my town of Swampscott. And it doesn't usually spawn poetry during during the election day because it's, I'm pretty busy. But not the last election, but the last town election, which was in September, that was for the state primary. It was a fairly slow day. So I actually came up with something. This is a first. It's called Reunion. Apart from the tan plastic baby changing table bolted to the wall and the absence of ever-present smoke stench from hastily discarded cigarette butts scattered everywhere like tiny wildflowers, the Swampscott High School boys' bathroom is still the same in the mid-2020s of the early 21st century as it was in the mid-1980s of the late 20th century. Illustrative graffiti is scratched into the mirror. Adam loves Julie 2021. Mike's dick is so small, LOL. Paper towels indifferently tossed onto the floor soak up puddles of assorted questionability. The always smashed thermostat. The malevolent urinal that squirts and spits its flush all over the crotch of my pants. I dread the impending brutal taunts from hateful classmates and loathsome gym teachers. Broken locks on steel stall doors, and the lone shit swims mercilessly in the toilet bowl because you were too fucking lazy to flush. Thank you. This one is called Wouldn't I Hammer? Don't know. The flowering of my eyes is a black cat lie I do not see. Minotaur's fandango dance, rusted old car parts strewn by concrete sidewalk breeze. Hart Crane asked, have you not seen that core of shadows in the tower? The big kids smoke weed behind the school. They're so cool. Don't give a fuck, or do they? The agony column reads like a who's who of who knows who. Not me who knew. I was late too. Missed the train. Can't focus those wooden eyes like grand glass spheres of fish. They swim in forever circles of silken twilight. I poach in my own sauce. A candy pox, jitters, twitches, and crawls. I need you, Whiskey King. Hammer away, break down the front doors, smash the teak shutters until the jazz hands whirl and burn as beacons in topaz fog. Only then will I finally know them. And that was recently, you can't see it on the cover in my background, but that was recently published in Finn Hall's Ain't No Deadbeats Round Here, which came out the end of the year. Finn Hall, great. He's the beat poet laureate of Scotland, and that was on his Like a Blot from the Blue imprint. So you can pick that up on, I think it's lulu.com, on that's an on-demand printing house. So this is a new piece, the next one, and I've got to thank my friend Insectarium and Michael Benoit. They are a bunch of musicians that I hooked up with on Bandcamp about a year ago on a label. I'm really into underground music, and this label is based out of Mike's home state, New Hampshire. It's called An Eclectic Collection of Dust. And one of the musicians on there, he goes by the name of Cathodos, and he's a fellow Salem State alumni, and he lives in St. Louis. And he asked me to send him a piece, and hopefully he's going to set this to music. And this piece influenced a lot of musicians on this label, and it's a dark, ambient, and very experimental label. And I call this The Summoning. And I got to thank Joel and Mike as they're part of this influence. So this is called The Summoning. Take heed of the night, this corrosive darkness. The old poet warns. Beware the howling man, the creeping man, the words of the past echo, a phantom frequency that invades as you descend within the gray. That peculiar fog, forever fog, somewhere cold and in between. Don't turn out the light. Don't turn out the light, the darkness anonymous, infinite in all directions. Let me out, let me out. The green violin scratches out a hollow sonata of forgotten stars. There is a fox, a cast of crabs, a journey of giraffes, ghosts of Times Square, a grasp of unseen. Release me from my Solocin asylum. I drink the bitter wine from Satan's tears and welcome with open arms my descent into the abyss of eternal shadows. Thank you. So I'm really into music. I worked for Rykodisc record label in the late '90s. I was a college DJ for 10 years. I wrote for a fanzine, managed a record store, got a gigantic record collection. But I will never travel through this universe as the lead singer of a heavy metal rock band. I will not unleash a pitting, uncensored oral assault against your tortured, bloody soul with punishing black metal blackness. I am profusely underqualified for this job, incapable of intoning incantations to conjure the mighty Prince of Darkness, Lord of Uber Doom, Ozzy Osbourne. I am not from Norway or Sweden, nor am I capable of producing the demonic vomit and straight razor guttural vocal growls that slam out of your stereo to incinerate your bowels until the putrid eardrum bursting shrieks a la Rob Halford spew forth, shattering not just the glass, but the cohesive window of your dying hellfire soul. I will never be the lead singer of a heavy metal rock band because I do not have brutally long hair. I cannot fathom the pummeling thought of having to change my name to some faux metallic porn star moniker such as Leif Eric Sperm. Also, I've always been unable to decipher the cryptic font of the printed names of the bands, most likely inscribed by Lucifer himself with ink of iron slag dross and black venom spit etched across the latest record album cover that will sell millions of copies to your consumer-crazed children, bearing such fashionably caustic names as Lamb of God, Hecate Enthroned, Cradle of Filth, Pig Destroyer, Emperor, Akrasicauda, Falkenbach, and Satyricon. I am not a sorcerer. I am not Cerberus. I do not possess the angst and spit and shit to accomplish this gargantuan megalith. I will not be Jack the Ripper. I will not be the Phantom Knight. I will not be a heavy metal rock star. I am not pain. I am not hate. I am not darkness. I am not blackness. I can never be a heavy metal rock star. I ain't metal. I ain't heavy. I am light. Thank you. Remember that poem. There'll be a quiz in a few minutes. Called Day One. Ignorant candidates indoctrinate voters. The American terrorist reelected by compatriots. I am no longer poet. I am no longer poll worker. I am no longer renegade. I'll never cast my ballot again. I'll never think blue. I am no longer Jew. I am no longer goth. I am no longer queer. I've got everything to fear. When he masturbates his whims, these become sin. I am the enemy within. Thanks. This is another new piece. It's called Holy War. And I got to thank the band Asia from their debut album from 1982, the song Wildest Dreams, if anybody remembers that. Great song. Holy War. They command a ceasefire, a temporary truce, a brief cease and desist of war. They bind their wounds, clear their dead, assess the damage, anguish, fragile armistice throughout this sullen stoppage of war. Leaders of sides strategize. They decorate their generals who fight behind the lines, dismissing their soldiers, discarding their civilians. They stand stubborn in their further plan to stoke and provoke annihilation, decimation, eradication, liquidation, invalidation, obliteration upon their malicious adversaries, their holy book enemies, as bombings resume at the ceasing of the ceasefire. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the nominees at this time for Best Poet and Poem are Dylan Thomas, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. Dylan Thomas, writer, director, and producer. Robert Frost, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Robert Frost, writer, director, and producer. E. Cummings, Anyone Lived in a Pretty How Town. E. Cummings, writer, director, and producer. George Gordon Noel, Lord Byron, She Walks in Beauty Like the Night. Lord Byron, writer, director, and producer. Lee Eric Freedman, I Ain't Heavy, a heavy metal saga. Lee Eric Freedman, writer, director, and producer. And the winner for Best Poet and Poem is RIP Lee Eric Freedman, I Ain't Heavy, a heavy metal saga. Applause, applause, applause. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't believe this. I just don't believe this. Thank you. Thank you very much for this most prestigious award. Oh boy. I can't even begin to fathom this. It's fucking wow. I'm so honored. Thank you. I'd like to thank the following people. I don't know how I would have gotten through this poetry reading without all of you and your support. First, I'd like to thank the cast and crew. I love you all very much. Dylan Thomas, Robert Frost, E. Lord Byron, you're terrific. However, I guess I'm better than you because I won and none of you did. Oh, and thank you to the crew, especially John Waterman, our soundman, Laurie, the caterer, and Brett, my secret lover. Honey, you're my best boy. A big thank you to my wife, the lovely poet Susan, whoever you are. Her new Pulitzer Prize winning book is released today. Thanks to my three beautiful children, Artemis, Zeus, and jet pilot Carburetor. And thanks to my agent, R. Chesterton Frederickson Backhoe III. Lastly, I especially want to thank the most important person in my life. I'd like to thank Satan. I mean, I just won Best Poet. I can thank anyone I want, and nobody ever thanks Satan at these award ceremonies. I mean, my devil, he is, after all, the Prince of Darkness, Beelzebub, Lucifer, Mephistopheles, El Diablo. If Richard Gere thanks the Dalai Lama, and Tom Cruise thanks L. Ron Hubbard, and Oprah for letting her jump on his couch, and I don't know who Oprah thanks, but it's probably Jesus, God, or some TV network executive. And if Dolly Parton thanked her Golden Globes, I want to give a big wet thank you kiss to my best friend in the whole world, Satan. Satan, Satan, Satan. Don't you all look at me like that. We've all sold our souls to Satan and his evil devil spawn too. You know, those talk shows and tabloids and Dancing with the Stars. You just feel the fires of hell lapping at your feet. I'm burning now, and I'm taking all the poets with me. So thank you, Satan, and thank you to the Academy. And you know, at least I'm not thanking Hitler. I think Mel thanked him already. Thank you very much, and good night. Thank you. I read that once, and I'm the only person from Speak Up, Open Mic, and Lynn who had somebody walk out when I was reading because of that poem. So I wear that as an honor.
Oh my God.
You know, few people know that I got my first
I got two
poetry
more.
reading, Death Threat, at Lee Eric Friedman's Swampscott reading.
I'm wearing Zoom Bomb now. I
Oh
got
my
two
God.
more.
There you
Okay,
go. All
good
right.
Lord.
I think I got two more. I thought I had other ones pulled out, but I guess I got two more. So I'll just do the last two. This one's another new one. And there's a lot of goth stuff in it. So you might know some of it, you might not. But I don't care because I'm the Renegade Laureate. It's called Jennifer Throws Down the Gauntlet. Upon this freezing January evening, feature poet Jennifer Martelli challenges our faithful circle gathered at the monthly Friday Readers and Writers Open Mic that everyone must write a poem featuring John Travolta. So imagine me at Saturday Night Fever Goth Night, attired in my best London After Midnight black three-piece polyester suit, black cavalier hat with its ostentatious purple feather plume and black leather D'Artagnan boots, gyrating and glamoring like an electric raven to the dismally haunting heavy bass reverb classic tunes of This Corrosion, Stranger, and Bela Lugosi's Dead. The checkerboard dance floor lights pulse and glimmer in sync to the dark wave beat, while whirling and twirling disco balls radiate, reflect, and refract their numerous white numerous white light high beams around the room like great white spirits' tails stretching across the endless Milky Way night. Or now, here's me chilling out in the haunted forest with the classy, crafty, and cunning Uma Thurman. Her red apple brand cigarette dangles from her ruby red lips as her piercing fangs catch a glint of black light. The flow is the key as Uma and I groove those timeless goth strides and collect the cobwebs. Pick curious fruit, mopey two-step, elbows nailed to side, and pet the wolves. We trip the light fantastic to the indelible darkness of Audra's midnight moon swing at the world-renowned Jackrabbit Slim's Vampire Twist Contest. In the midnight moon swing, he writes his Valentine. Nothing ever happens when you're looking for it. I'll keep my mouth shut if you close your eyes. I'll keep my mouth shut if you close your eyes. Uma is the white witch, and her all-white attire paired beautifully with gold Chanel slippers perfectly complements my Peter Murphy black linen single-breasted two-button with ventless black sport jacket. Later this evening, we release the bats and enrage the spiders whilst drinking our Viridian absinthe. We toast our dark victory regarding the stolen trophy, which later, accompanied by an autographed picture of Princess Diana Spencer dancing with John Travolta, we present to Vinnie Barbarino's little brother, the boy in the plastic bubble. But alas, by a sign from the sorcerer, and despite the failed intervention by the Archangel Michael, it arrives for naught in the early dawn hour while driving home from our senior prom in a fantastical sacrifice to Azazel the goat god. Uma Thurman and I are tragically killed when our flaming red 1967 Chevrolet Chevelle SS Coupe, I had to look that up, is forced off the road, flipped and exploded by a very revengeful, covered from head to toe with sticky pig's blood, Carrie White. Jennifer, my dear friend, John Travolta doesn't need to be inside this silver thread poem. But with your prompt push and thrown gauntlet, I know both of you helped me figure it out. Thanks. And I got one more.
Tell me more. Tell me
Tell
more.
me more. So I do have God, I can, well, maybe you can see this, maybe you can't. I don't know. I do have chapbooks available. I did a split chapbook with Surav Sakar, the poet from India, earlier in the last year or late last year, and they're available on that dreaded Amazon. So, but this last piece, I am honored that Mark Lippman put this. He published it a few years ago in the Extreme anthology on his Vagabond books, and it was the opening poem to that anthology. And Mark said that I'm going to publish this in the Lunar Codex, and it's going to be the first poem in that as well. So I don't know if it caused the Athena to tip over, but I'm honored to be in the book with Chad and Joan, who looks like she clicked off, and Mark, and a whole lot, a bunch of other great poems. And I thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I do host an open mic. I don't know if it's coming back because it's called First Friday Open Mic, but the president of my local arts group, Reach Arts in Swampscott, passed away on New Year's Eve, and the board decided that Reach Arts is going to be no longer. Not because of that, but other people were stepping back, and they just, as I was saying before we started, there were no new people stepping up to join the group. So I don't know if my First Friday will continue. It may, but you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, and that's it. So I want to end with this, and it's definitely appropriate, I think, for the times we live in. And again, thank you, Chad, and Stone Soup. I read Stone Soup years and years and years ago, and I finally featured here. So this is like playing the Enormo Dome or something, and I'm pretty psyched. So the title of this is Latin, and it's called Ecce Carmen. Excuse me. Okay. This poem's been written many, many times by you or you or you or some other famous poet. And this poem is inspired by that other poem written by you or you or you or that famous poet whose name escapes me at this moment. This poem began when time began and will last until time ends. This poem welcomes with a hearty hug. It tells the truth or blurs it blind. This poem paints the skies green, turns rivers into lemonade. This poem's heavy duty and kink resistant. Well, yeah. This poem is a dream, like all poems are dreams. So the title of this poem cannot be titled Dream or Dreams or Nightmares, because those are just bad dreams. Scorpions live inside this poem, as do spiders, as do frogs, as do things that go bump in the night. This poem is evil. This poem is Harry Powell. This poem is Norman Bates, Darth Vader, Hannibal Lecter, Tom Riddle. This poem is a black man. This poem gets shot and dies. This poem is transgender. This poem can't piss in their toilet. This poem is Muslim, is Syrian, a refugee, a little boy fleeing war, drowned in the surf on a beach in Turkey. This poem likes men. This poem is gay. This poem is so gay because I hate poetry and poems so much. They suck and they're gay. But this poem will rip your clothes off or beat you senseless till you're blue, bruised, damaged, and rearranged. This poem is Hitler. This poem is Pol Pot. This poem is Idi Amin. This poem is Donald. Or it could be, if you or I wanted it, maybe. This poem is good. So good, in fact, there's too much good inside this poem to call this poem evil. This poem is Manet. This poem is Satie. This poem is Rimbaud. Ecce homo. Behold the poem. Behold the man. This poem screams. If I could read. You'll love this poem. You'll hate this poem. This is the rule for all poems. This poem makes you reach. This poem makes you retch, makes you feel, makes you think. But this poem's a fraud, a scam, a lark, a fluke, a fake, a cliche. It's not a poem. This poem is as good as dead until such time when you or I read this poem, hear this poem. It'll open its eyes, spread its wings. This poem's a butterfly. This poem's an eagle, a poetry eagle. This poem will soar. This poem will drum the drum, gong the gong, horn the horn. This poem will roar, raise the roof, take the action, stand up, fight back. Ecce Carmen, behold the poem. This poem is to be continued. Thank you.
Lee Eric Freedman, after hearing many of your poems and your acceptance speeches disguised as poems, I now question the validity of your election to become any kind of poet laureate at Swampscott. They probably signed you off with an auto pen too. Regardless, regardless, that was completely fantastic and grateful for your work. If you have any information of how to purchase your books, you can email me that information, or if you have a Venmo or a PayPal where we can shower you with gifts and donations, please let us know that as well. You can either do that in the comments or send it to me, and I can share it in the post photo in post reading video comments. And we definitely need to get more of your work. It definitely needs to get more out there. So keep on doing what you're doing. Today, Swampscott. Tomorrow, fuck it, the rest of New England. Let's keep on working. But thank you so much for everything.
It's the Gulf of Lee Eric Freedman, by the way. I declared it before the shithead did. So just to let you know that.
There we go.
Yeah,
And you could probably change that on Google Maps if you wanted to.
probably. Yeah, probably.
And I urge all of us to do that, as well as go on Amazon, as The Apprentice is now available on Amazon Prime. So if you're still holding off on doing anything with that account, if you even have one, now might be the time to now might be the time to down
Robert.
all of Trump's shit. But if you haven't already, I've never even watched him. But the sewer of Robert Fleming. Okay, Robert. Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone for coming out. This was a wonderful night. And PayPal was just given out by Lee Eric Friedman. I'll be sharing that tomorrow as well for the post reading photo and and of course the video, which will be showing up on YouTube hopefully by 9 o'clock tomorrow.
I gotta say that it wouldn't have been a cool feature if Robert wasn't here. So he makes my day when he comes to my events. So and thank everybody. I gotta thank all of you too. I really appreciate it. So
Thank you all very much, and to Robert. Fanfiction aside, thanks to everyone, and hope to continue these readings all throughout National Poetry Month, which is coming up in just a couple of less than 2 weeks, as well as Stone Soup's anniversary month in May. This has been a wonderful night, and for anyone who's come here for the first time ever, please come back again. We meet currently without fail, or with very little fail at least, maybe a couple fails, every Wednesday night from 7 to 10 Eastern Time. But then again, if you're here, you already knew that part. Either that or you think it's 11 right now where you're sat. But anyway, thank you guys so much for coming tonight. The obligatory wave as we say farewell to each other. Think shit's fucked. But I'm so glad we have these readings. At least one rigged election turned out really well, Mr. Poet Laureate of Swampscott. And and thank you guys very much. More features and all open mics to be announced. Calls for submissions are going to be announced. Keep submitting your work. We need you guys more than ever, and take care of yourselves. Take care of someone else if you can. And finally, to conclude, the show's over. See you next time. But what'll we do until then?